Welcome to Private Stories, where people discover who they really are.
You ever sit in a crowded room, surrounded by laughter and clinking glasses, and suddenly feel like you don't belong to your own life anymore? That was me. Friday night, 9:18 p.m. rooftop lounge at the, except now it was called the Alder Heights Hotel in downtown Chicago. I remember the exact time because I checked my watch again and again, like somehow time itself might explain what I was feeling. I hadn't spoken to my wife in almost an hour. Her name was Vanessa Carter. It wasn't the kind of name that demanded attention, but she had a way of carrying it like everything about her belonged in a more expensive world than the one we started in. Vanessa used to be different, not loud, not needy, just grounded, thoughtful. The kind of woman who noticed small things, how I took my coffee, the songs I replayed, the way I got quiet when something bothered me. That was before her new job, before Adrian Cole, before the late nights, the unfamiliar perfume, and the inside jokes I was never part of. The invitation had come that same morning. She stood in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone while the toast burned in the background. "You should come tonight," she said casually. "It's just a networking thing, kind of important." Kind of important. That was her way of saying it mattered more than she was willing to admit, so I said yes. Because what kind of husband doesn't show up? I wore the wrong clothes, khaki pants, brown loafers, a button-up shirt that looked fine in our hallway mirror but felt completely out of place the moment I stepped onto that rooftop. Everyone else looked effortless, tailored, like they had stylists or instincts I never developed. Meanwhile, I felt like a guest who had wandered into the wrong scene. Vanessa greeted me with a quick smile, polished, almost rehearsed. "This is Nathan," she said, introducing me to a couple standing nearby. "Not my husband, just Nathan." The guy barely nodded. The woman smiled politely, already scanning the room for someone more interesting. Another man asked what I did. "Financial compliance," I answered. He gave a tight smile and immediately turned away mid-conversation. That was it, my grand introduction. And then Vanessa disappeared. "No, I'll be right back." Yes. No explanation, just gone. I spotted her across the rooftop a minute later. She was walking toward a private lounge area, velvet seating, low lighting, the kind of space reserved for people who didn't need to ask permission to be there. That's where Adrian Cole was sitting, tall, relaxed. The kind of man who didn't try to impress because he didn't have to. Vanessa leaned in slightly when she reached him, her hand brushing his shoulder. She said something close to his ear. He laughed, and she stayed. I stood there with a glass in my hand I never drank from, watching. Not angry, not yet, just aware. Aware of how far away she felt, even standing 20 feet from me. Aware of how invisible I had become. Like I'd walked into the final act of a story I didn't even know I was part of. At some point, a woman passed behind me and muttered under her breath. I thought he came alone. She didn't realize I heard her. Or maybe she didn't care. I didn't make a scene, didn't confront anyone, didn't even look for Vanessa again. I just turned and walked out, past the glass doors, past the elevator, past the lobby where the doorman gave me a look that felt a little too close to pity. 10 minutes later, I was sitting in my car in the parking garage, engine off, hands on the wheel. That's when my phone lit up. Vanessa. A single message. "Come back, please." 3 words. No explanation, no apology, no urgency, just the assumption that I would, like I always did. I stared at the screen. The message felt heavier than it should have, because it didn't match what had just happened. She ignored me for nearly 2 hours. And now suddenly I mattered. I didn't reply. I didn't go back, not that night. Instead, I drove, no destination, no plan, just empty streets and the quiet hum of the engine. I ended up parked outside a late-night diner somewhere off Lake Shore Drive. Midnight had already passed. The message was still open on my phone. "Come back, please." No follow-up, no second message, like she believed that was enough. But what stayed with me wasn't the text. It was the timing. She sent it exactly 8 minutes after I left. Not sooner, not later, 8, like something had changed or almost happened. And for a brief, ugly moment, a thought crossed my mind. Did I interrupt something just by being there? I didn't sleep much that night. When I got home, the house felt wrong, too quiet. Our dog, Milo, barely reacted when I walked in, just lifted his head and looked confused like I had broken some invisible routine. I didn't even go upstairs, just grabbed a blanket and collapsed on the couch. She came home around 3:30 a.m. I heard the door unlock, soft footsteps, heels in her hand. I kept my eyes half closed, pretending to sleep. She stood in the entryway for a moment, like she wasn't sure if she should come in or turn around and leave again. Her makeup was faded, not smudged from crying, worn off, like it had been touched too much or removed too quickly. She didn't notice me, went straight upstairs. Quiet, careful, like someone who didn't want to be heard. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening, closet doors, running water, a phone vibrating twice, then silence by morning. She acted like nothing had happened. By the time I walked into the kitchen, Vanessa was already awake. Her hair was tied back in a loose knot, a few dark strands falling softly along her cheekbones. She looked composed, too composed. Coffee was already brewed, 2 cups. Her phone something she never used to do before. She didn't smile, didn't say good morning, just glanced at me briefly and said, "You didn't come back." I stopped a few steps from the counter and looked straight at her. "Why did you text me?" She didn't hesitate. "Because you left." I let that sit for a second. "That's not a reason." She gave a small shrug. That same shrug I used to find charming when we first started dating, light, playful, a little mysterious. Now it felt like avoidance, like a door quietly closing. She looked down into her coffee as if the answer might be floating somewhere on the surface. Then she added, almost casually, "Adrian asked where you were." That name landed differently this time. He didn't ask about me. He asked where I was, like I had been expected, accounted for. I leaned slightly against the counter. Did he say anything else? She finally looked up at me, held my gaze for a moment, then said, "He said you seemed distant." I almost laughed. Distant. I was standing alone while my wife leaned into another man like gravity had shifted in his direction. But I didn't say that. I just nodded slowly. "Right." She reached for her phone, unlocked it, then locked it again almost immediately. Her fingers trembled just slightly, barely noticeable. If I hadn't been watching her so closely, I would have missed it. "You overthink things, Nathan," she said, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "You always have." It wasn't the first time she'd said that, but this time it didn't sound like concern. It sounded like strategy. She stepped closer and kissed me on the cheek. Soft, light, empty. The kind of kiss people exchange in front of others to maintain the illusion that everything is fine. Then she grabbed her bag and left for work. The door closed, and for the first time since the night before, I let myself breathe. I stood there in the kitchen for a while. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened my phone and typed, "Signs your partner is emotionally cheating." I didn't expect much, maybe a few generic articles, but as I scrolled, my stomach tightened. Late nights, emotional distance, new routines, inside jokes you're not part of, defensiveness, sudden changes in appearance. Half of it was already true, the rest felt like it was lining up quietly. And then something came back to me. A moment from the night before, something small, something I hadn't fully processed at the time. On my way out of the rooftop, I passed a table near the edge of the terrace. There was a man sitting there alone, silver jacket, no drink. Just a phone in his hand, angled slightly upward, recording. As I walked past, he looked directly at me and said, "Rough night, huh?" At the time, I barely reacted, just nodded and kept walking. But now, something about it didn't sit right. He wasn't dressed like the others, didn't blend in, didn't socialize, didn't move. He was watching. And suddenly a thought hit me. I hadn't just left a party. I had walked out of something else entirely, something staged. That idea stuck with me the entire day. It followed me into the afternoon, into the silence of the house, into every corner of my thoughts. By evening, I couldn't ignore it anymore, so I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I opened Vanessa's old laptop. We used to share everything: passwords, accounts, music, back when trust wasn't something we questioned. I wasn't planning to snoop. Not at first, I just needed clarity, something real, but then I saw it. AirDrop history, a file received 2 nights ago. Device name, guest unit 07. My chest tightened. I clicked it. A video, 23 seconds long, no sound. The angle was familiar immediately. It was shot from across the rooftop, facing the private lounge. The same place Vanessa had been sitting with Adrian. The video started. She was laughing, head tilted slightly back, her dark hair falling over one shoulder. Comfortable, too comfortable. Adrian reached out, brushed something off her neck. Except there was nothing there. She didn't flinch, didn't pull away. Then he leaned in, close, too close. His lips almost touching her ear. She laughed again, softer this time. And then his hand rested on her knee. She didn't move it. The video ended. I stared at the screen, not blinking, not breathing. It wasn't dramatic. There was no kiss, no obvious line crossed, but that was the worst part. It looked natural, familiar, like it wasn't the first time. I closed the laptop slowly. My hands felt cold. I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't overthinking. Something was happening. And that man in the silver jacket, he had sent me that video. The only question was, why? That night I didn't wait. I drove back to the hotel, not because I expected answers, but because I needed to see it again. To stand in the same place and understand what I had missed. The rooftop was quieter this time, different crowd, different energy. But then I saw him, same spot, same silver jacket, same phone, like he had never left. He noticed me almost instantly, smiled, not friendly, not hostile, just knowing. He stood up as I approached, like he had been expecting me. "You came back," he said. His voice was calm, measured. "Took you long enough." I stopped a few feet away. "Who are you?" He extended his hand. "Name S. Caleb Vance. I work in media." I didn't shake it. He didn't seem offended, just nodded slightly, like he had anticipated that too. "Your wife is interesting," he continued. "She moves like someone who doesn't think she's being watched." My jaw tightened. "I'm not here for games." "Good," he said quietly. "Neither am I." He stepped a little closer, lowered his voice. "Let me ask you something, Nathan." He paused, just long enough to make sure I was paying attention. "Did she tell you about Miami?" My stomach dropped. "What Miami?" He smiled again, slightly wider this time. "Exactly." For a second I didn't move, didn't blink, didn't even breathe properly. "What Miami?" I repeated, slower this time. Caleb watched me carefully, like he was studying a reaction he already understood. Then he pulled his phone out, tapped the screen a few times. "Your wife isn't just working late, Nathan," he said calmly. "She's positioning herself." I clenched my jaw. "Say what you came here to say." He turned the screen toward me. Another video. This one was different. Indoors, dim lighting, a hotel room. The faces were partially obscured, not enough to be obvious, but enough to make it deniable. But I didn't need a clear view. I recognized her instantly. The way she moved, the way she laughed, the way she leaned in. And the blouse. The same one she wore that night. Adrian was there too, closer than before. No distance left between them. The video cut before anything explicit, but it didn't need to show more. The silence said everything. I felt something inside my chest shift, not explode, not break, just settle, like a final piece falling into place. "What do you want from me?" I asked quietly. "Nothing," Caleb said, and for the first time he sounded sincere. I'm not here to blackmail you, not here to threaten you. I just think you deserve to know what kind of game you've been pulled into. Game, that word stuck. Men like Adrian, he continued, they don't improvise, everything is structured, planned, controlled. I didn't respond. And women like your wife, he added, pausing briefly, they don't realize what they've stepped into until they're too far in to walk away. I looked at him sharply. You don't know her. He held my gaze. You're right, he said, but I know him. That hit harder than I expected. He slipped his phone back into his pocket. Just ask her about the trip, he said. See what she tells you. And then, just like that, he walked away, no threats, no demands, no explanation, just gone. I stood there alone on that rooftop again, but this time I wasn't confused, I was certain. When I got home, Vanessa was already there, standing in the kitchen like nothing had changed. She looked up as I walked in, smiled faintly. Do you want Thai or sushi tonight? Like we were normal. Like we were fine. I'm not hungry, I said. She studied my face for a moment, just a flicker of something in her eyes, suspicion, maybe concern. Then she looked away. Oh, she said casually, reaching for a glass. By the way, I might have a work trip coming up. There it was, I nodded. Where to? She hesitated just for a second. Out of state, client summit. Which city? Another pause, smaller this time. I'm not sure yet, they're still finalizing. Miami. Let me know the dates, I said. She smiled, relieved, too relieved. Of course. That night I didn't confront her, didn't argue, didn't accuse, because I wasn't reacting anymore. I was waiting. 3 days later she left. She called it a conference. Packed like it was a vacation, 3 dresses, 2 swimsuits. A new perfume I had never seen before. Light, sweet, dangerous. She stood in front of the mirror adjusting a necklace. Gold, delicate, not something I had ever given her. Text me when you land, I said. I will, she replied. She hesitated at the door, like she almost wanted to say something, but she didn't. And neither did I the moment she left. I moved. I had already taken time off work, booked a separate flight. Different airline, different time. I wasn't going to confront her, not yet. I needed to see it with my own eyes. Sometimes doubt is worse than truth, and I was done doubting. I landed in Miami just before noon. Didn't check into a hotel, didn't waste time. I waited near the arrival's exit, coffee in hand, watching, and then I saw her. Vanessa. She didn't look tired. Didn't look stressed. She looked happy. Adrian was already there, waiting, black car, private driver. He stepped forward the moment she appeared, pulled her into a hug, too long, too familiar. She laughed, tossed her hair back. The same way she used to when we first met. He opened the car door for her, not like a colleague, like a man on a date. They drove off, and I followed, rental car, distance, careful. The resort was exactly what I expected. Luxury, private, isolated. No conference badges, no coworkers, no signs of business, just champagne at the front desk. She took a glass without hesitation. By 2 p.m. I already knew the truth. By 3 p.m. I knew their room, penthouse suite. By 4 p.m. I had left a message at reception, not for her, for him. And by the time I got back to my car, my phone buzzed, unknown number. You're making a mistake, let her go. I stared at the screen. She's not yours anymore. My hands tightened around the wheel. They knew not just that I was there, but that I wouldn't act, that I would stay quiet, that I was harmless. That was their mistake. I left Miami that same evening. Didn't let her see me, didn't confront her. When she texted later, landed safe, long day already, talk soon. I didn't reply, because the next move was mine. The silence between us after she came back felt different, not heavy, not tense, just finished. Vanessa returned 2 days later, her suitcase lighter, her expression brighter, like she had just stepped out of a life that didn't include me. "I got you something," she said, holding out a small white box. Inside was a linen shirt, tropical print. Brand new, still tagged. I held it for a moment, nodded, didn't say thank you. That's when she noticed. Something in my face, something missing. "Do you want to have dinner?" she asked. "I've got work," I replied. "Are you okay?" "I'm just tired." She didn't push, and that told me everything. She was afraid not of losing me, but of what I might already know while she was gone. I hadn't been waiting, I had been digging, shared accounts, cloud storage, old folders she forgot existed, and that's when I found it, a lease agreement, luxury apartment, downtown, her name on it. Move-in date 3 weeks. No mention to me, no conversation, no warning. She had already planned her exit. I kept digging. Emails, messages, documents. Then I found something worse. A contract from Adrian's company. Buried inside legal documents, hidden in plain sight. A clause, one line that changed everything. Post-divorce executive transition bonus. My name was listed. Not as a person, as a condition. I wasn't a husband anymore. I was a step in a process, a payout trigger. That's when everything became clear. She wasn't leaving yet. Because she was waiting for the right moment. Timing, image, control, they weren't reckless, they were strategic, and I was the last piece on their board. That night I didn't confront her, I called Caleb. He picked up immediately, like he had been expecting me. "They're planning everything," I said, a pause. "I told you," he replied quietly. "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means Adrian doesn't just have affairs," Caleb said. "He builds systems, people, positions. He turns relationships into leverage." I felt my chest tighten. "And Vanessa?" I asked. Another pause, longer this time. "She's already in too deep," he said. "The promotions, the visibility, that's not talent, Nathan, that's compliance." That word hit harder than anything else. Compliance. "She chose this?" I asked. "Yes." Not hesitation, not doubt, just truth. Then Caleb added something that stopped everything. "Did she tell you she might be pregnant?" The world went quiet. "What?" I whispered. "I overheard Adrian talking," he said. "He mentioned handling a situation before it gets complicated." My knees nearly gave out. 3 weeks earlier, Vanessa had mentioned missing her period, said it was stress. Nothing serious, I hadn't questioned it. Now I did. And suddenly, this wasn't just betrayal, it was something deeper, something final. That night I didn't sleep. I didn't yell, didn't break anything. I just sat in the dark, thinking, because I needed to decide something, not how to save the marriage, but how to end it, clean. The next morning she made breakfast, smiled, acted like everything was normal. I watched her carefully, and I realized something. She wasn't confused, she wasn't lost, she had already chosen. That night we sat across from each other at the kitchen table. She made pasta, her comfort move. There was small talk, forced laughter, avoidance. Then finally, she said it. "There's something I need to tell you." I nodded. "Go on." She looked down, took a breath. "I'm pregnant." Silence. I leaned back slightly. "I know," I said. She froze. "What do you mean you know?" "I saw the draft," I replied calmly. "The one to Adrian, subject line confirmed." Her face changed, not shock, calculation. "Is it his?" I asked. She hesitated, then quietly, "I don't know." That was enough. "I want a divorce," I said. No anger, no shouting, just truth. She blinked slowly. "I figured." "I won't fight you," I continued, "but I won't protect you either." That got her attention. "What does that mean?" "It means whatever happens next, that's yours." I stood up. I already hired a legal team. For the first time. She looked afraid. "I'm not trying to destroy you," I said, "just freeing myself." That night she slept in the guest room, and by morning, it was over. No drama, No public fallout, just papers, signatures, distance. I kept everything I built. My work, my money, my dignity. A few weeks later, it was done. I sold the house, took the dog, moved to a smaller city near a lake. Quiet, simple, mine. Months passed. Then one day, a message from her. I hope you're okay. I think about you sometimes. I didn't reply, not because I hated her, but because I didn't need to anymore. She didn't break me. She revealed me. 6 months later, I met someone. Her name was Lily Brooks. Soft smile, honest eyes, no games. We met in a bookstore, argued about a novel, laughed about it after. And for the first time in a long time, everything felt real. Now we walk by the lake in the evenings. No secrets, no strategy, just peace. And if there's one thing I learned, it's this. You don't need revenge to win. Sometimes walking away is the strongest move you'll ever make.
Thank you for watching this video to the end. Visit our channel for interesting and intriguing stories.